Eric, the How to App team will do the edits and they will do all the intros and details on you. So I will start actually with the questions here.
Perfect.
And my first one is about your accelerator and bridging deep tech startups and raising them and supporting them and making the liaisons with the corporates and VCs. So tell me a bit about what you're doing at SpinLab, and then we will get more into the specific questions.
Okay, yeah, so at SpinLab Group, we are running a couple of accelerator programs based in Germany. So with SpinLab in Leipzig, we focus on energy, smart city, and health. In Hanover, we run our root camp, which is focusing on agriculture and bioeconomy. And in Dresden, we run ExciteLab, that is focusing on semiconductors, sensors, and robotics. And our basic assumption is that in these what you would maybe consider second-tier locations. It's not London, it's not Tel Aviv, it's not Berlin, obviously. We still have a very good industry, so every third chip in Europe is produced in Dresden, for example. That's why there we can do semiconductors. Major players of the agriculture industry like K+S as fertilizer company or KWS as seed company is located 200 kilometers around Hanover, for example. Leipzig has a very high density of energy companies, and this is our basic assumption, and we bring startups from all around Europe to these locations and help them to get customers in that location and creating the first projects together, commercial projects, R&D projects, sales corporations, and so on. And besides customers, we found obviously that financing is the biggest issue of founders. That is why, of course, we have a very strong network of different VCs in the DACH region, but also European VCs that we connect to those founders. In total, we collected more than 600 million. But we are also running with SI Ventures own seed fund in this ecosystem that is also investing around 500K in the first ticket, in the first round, typically pre-seed or seed.
Happy to say that we at Underline were also like waiting for some deals, right, for you to share. And of course, we are always looking for deep tech startups. And you've just mentioned some cities in Germany that are like specifically into some sectors. And we all know here at the VC, in the VC world, deep tech is hard, hardware is hard. How do you actually specifically helping out some founders that are, might be technical and they don't have like the business acumen?
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the big issues. We do have a lot of teams with scientific backgrounds, a lot of founding teams with engineers, doctors, in whatever, you know, IT guys and so on. And the world changed a lot because like 10 years ago, investors were looking for fintech and e-commerce and all that stuff. And so we had a lot of business guys founding new companies. But nowadays, we have a lot of technical founders. And this even makes accelerators like us, for my opinion, more important because they are not talking the language. They are not used to negotiate deals with VCs or maybe signing big customer contracts, doing sales, building up all these administrative and managing things. So with us, they can learn the basics and they can step into this world and get direct customer access, get investor access, which we typically don't have. And this helps, especially first-time entrepreneurs, to get to the next steps, right? And much faster than if they need to learn all this business know-how from scratch, right? So we just help them and get them the experience and support them going much faster than they would go alone, I would say.
You also mentioned earlier about having in the accelerators batch some researchers. So I think that it will be interesting for our audience to know more about how you bridge the universities, technical universities, with researchers, like how you get those researchers from researching in a university to actually doing a product that is like in real life can be used by real life customers.
Yeah, that is a very good question, because I think that's the greatest potential we have in Europe. So we are very strong in research. We have a lot of IP developed in Europe, a lot of patents and everything. So if you compare these numbers of scientific publications, researchers and so on, we are really competitive on a global scale, also to the US and so on and so forth. But if you look to the commercialization part, we fall behind, right? And this is why I see the biggest potential there. But what needs to be done, I think at the end, it's very important that researchers, if they mingle around researchers, of course, they talk about research things, yeah? So if you go to any scientific conference, like the Academy of Management conference, you will talk about detailed stuff in your field. But you need to go to How to Web or to Machung Festival or to any other big startup conference to mingle around with entrepreneurs, right? And this is why these kind of events, but also the hubs and accelerators that we do, are helping these people to enter new networks, to not be in their research community only, to not be surrounded by academic stuff only, but to get contacts to other entrepreneurs. And this is maybe not what the universities are very good in. They are typically somehow closed shops, helping their own staff and students, but not so much as an open organization, yeah, to organize other entrepreneurs in the field. And that's why we work with these universities, for example, in Dresden with the Technical University of Dresden, which is one of the excellence universities and very strong in semiconductor research, for example, right? And but in these numbers, they don't have 20, 30, 50 semiconductor spin-offs a year, obviously not, right? And this is why we take the founders that they have in a special industry, semiconductors, for example. We add up founders all across Europe from other universities or just from the business side that join this group, coming to Dresden and interact. And now the professor of the Technical University of Dresden is surrounded by the tech entrepreneur from Madrid or Helsinki, right? And it's a different kind of discussions getting started, right? So
Are they getting the entrepreneurship bug just by being in the presence of other entrepreneurs, or how do you see this? Like a researcher, like just waking up one day and say, okay, I'm gonna do a product, not do some more research on this. I'm gonna just start building.
Yeah. I think what they need is like the role models and the environment surrounding them with entrepreneurial mindsets, I would say. So they learn a lot. They see, okay, this is the way they do it. It seems to work. It's different to what I have done before. So this is the one aspect, and of course they need this simply the knowledge, you know, the techniques or the models we adopt, how to do a financial planning that serves also in the VC world, right? How to do personas in customer sales. So there are these two dimensions, I would say. The one is the soft part of it, right? Which is more about role models and motivation stuff. And the other part is simply the know-how. And if you are a rocket researcher, of course, you have never done a persona. So the know-how is quite easy to transfer. What is really hard is the soft part of it, to make a rocket professor becoming into an entrepreneurial mindset. And this is why it needs other environments and not keeping them within the universities, but let's say confronting them with entrepreneurs.
I have now a question that I want you to give me like a real answer, like in the direct one. What we as a VC can do to bridge this gap more, like having more researchers going into the business side?
Yeah. I think on the VC side, we do one mistake. We quite often ask for the first traction, the first customers.
For numbers,
so,
not for the product actually working.
Exactly. So if we are honest, we like to start when the business gets somehow like plannable, and of course the risk is reduced that way. In Deeptech and Deeptech research especially, it works a bit different, so maybe the numbers are less relevant compared to the people and the mindsets and the structures, and the VC world already starts to adapt to it. 10 years ago, everyone wanted to do fintech and e-commerce still, and maybe software as a service. Nowadays, we do finance rocket startups, we do finance semiconductor startups, and I think this trend will continue, and we need to learn on the VC side how to evaluate these startups and the founders, and how to, let's say, reduce the risks of the assessment in terms of we need to understand how the technology works as well. So we need the technological competences as well, and the understanding how to scale these kind of hardware startups and how to adapt our models as VCs to these deep tech sectors. So HV Capital, for example, did an interesting step. So they changed from the 10 plus 1 plus 1 year model in the fund period to a 20-year model, because they assume that deep tech just needs more time. I don't say that this is the perfect solution. I don't know yet, but I think that we need to also adapt the VC model in itself.
We are also investors in deep tech, also semiconductors, industrial tech, and everything else. And I'm thinking to ask you something that might be hard to answer, but I think that founders need to know the real deal in this matter. I want to ask you about POCs. Mm-hmm. And how are POCs helping or not helping founders focusing at early stage building a product? Because we've seen lots of founders that are like swamped by one POC with a big company, and they are doing that for 1 year. They are not. They are actually now doing research for a company, not at a university. How do you see this? And if we also have like maybe an advice for founders with POCs, it will be amazing.
Yes. I generally think that POCs are a really, really important thing for any entrepreneur, not only in deep tech, but maybe it's even more important for deep tech founders, because if you have these scientific backgrounds and more these technical backgrounds, sometimes it's very hard to predict how customers would use your product, right? So from a maybe theoretical standpoint and perspective, it totally makes sense, but the market has some other rules or maybe regulations. So this is why these POCs will help you how to understand how the market will adapt it. But at the same time, founders need to get aware that one POC or maybe a small number of POCs can be misleading as well. Because a single company is maybe not representative for the market. And what I do often see is that companies have a big difference in something they consider as a pilot, as a POC, compared to their continuous production and to their continuous processes. So what I have seen, for example, in robotics a lot is that, well, they try this robot and they want to learn about the robot, right? And So the company maybe thinks we are on the right step to start up because, well, we are working with a big corporate, so it feels right. But it's a very, very big step from this piloting to a serious production, right? And to be really implemented in the processes of such a big company. So founders should have this definitely in mind, that this can be a misleading. You feel successful because you're selling one POC after another, but at some point you have to be sure that you can convert this to a recurring business. And this is a big danger. I do also see a lot because corporates are trying to learn from new technologies and maybe they start then to do it on their own or whatever. They can, a lot of things can happen. So don't be misleaded that way. Just be aware that at the end you have to be in recurring processes, right?
Yes, and on that note, bringing out a truth bomb, right? Actually, we're gonna end it here. Thank you, Eric, and hopefully I'm gonna see you around, right? Bye.
See you around. Thank you.